Hey guys, welcome to UKDiver. My name's Andy, and today I've got for you a little bit of scuba news. So, there's been a case rumbling along here in the UK for a number of years now, in one guise or another, that has finally come to some kind of a head in the last couple of days. And basically, this is the Scapa Flow Charters case. Now, if you're not familiar with this case, let me give you a little bit of background. Basically, a few years ago, a group of technical divers was diving out of Scapa Flow. Nothing new there. Unfortunately, what happened is one of the divers tripped on his fins while he was walking from his bench to the gate where he was about to jump in, and basically the amount of gear on him basically squished him and squished all his internals, and I think it was something like his liver and then maybe a bit of intestines as well or something, but he properly mashed himself up on the inside but didn't know about it straight away. Once he got up, dusted himself off, he carried on with the dive, and it wasn't a little dive the guy was doing. He was doing down to sort of 90 meters was the plan. Now, I've seen a lot of comment on this about, oh, what a chuffing idiot, you know, he fell over, injured himself and then carried on with the dive, what a moron, and all this kind of stuff. I can tell you from experience, guys, I've done this, and it's just a British thing, okay? I know the culture's maybe a bit more mardy than the British, but, you know, we have a stiff upper lip for a reason, because we have a stiff upper lip. So I know what this guy's done, okay? He's fell over his own fins. He thought to himself, what idiot, he's totally and utterly embarrassed. The stiff upper lip's come involved, and he's just got in the water out of sheer embarrassment. I've done it, okay? When I was a kid, I had a moped. It was a really sunny day, ripped the back up, the front come up, terrified me. I dubbed the brakes, and when the front wheel come down, it chucked me straight over the front of it. I rode 6 miles with a broken arm because I just wanted to be out of there, okay? I didn't even feel the pain. I felt the embarrassment first of everybody outside work looking at me, you know, being nice and, you know, oh, you're all right. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm all right, you know, I'm all right, you know, and then off you go. And then I got home and I was like, don't I think I broke my arm? Which I had. So, you know, I'm not going to criticise the diver in any way, shape or form, because the chances are, you know, this was an internal injury, and I fully understand the fact that embarrassment would have took over straight away. So I'm not even going to entertain any of that. And if you leave comments down below, then me and you are not friends on that regard, okay? I'm not commenting on that at all. So the guy went and did his dive. He got into trouble about 60 meters. The injury took hold and caused him to do a rapid ascent to the surface. He was assisted by other divers. There was one diver in there in the court report, which I will leave a link to down below, guys, so you can have a read of that. If you are not wanting to trawl right the way through it, you can start from page 48, and that's where it kind of deals with the ins and outs of it mainly. So, you know, pick it up from page 48 and you'll get most of the judge's conclusion. But in that report, the judge takes out one particular diver that was with him as going sort of above and beyond. I doff my cap to you, sir. If you're ever on my dive boat, I will be buying you a cup of coffee, my friend. They got the poor guy to the surface. Unfortunately, he was already passed away. He was taken off to Stornoway Hospital and pronounced dead on arrival. So this has been running on for a little bit, because I think the wife sued, and then there was a bit of legal to and froing about whether the kid, he had a young child, very young at the time. The mum was saying, well, you know, the child should be entitled to some compensation for this as well. So there was a bit of legal to and froing about whether the child actually had the right to claim or not. That was a different part of the case. But what we've had today, or what we've had a couple of days ago, I should say, is actually the reasoning on the substantive bit. So who was to blame? So was the skipper at fault for allowing the guy to fall over and cause himself these internal injuries to start with, that eventually then causality led to his death underwater? And there was lots of angles that they looked at it. So the boat that they were diving off was a converted fishing boat. A lot of the Scapa boats are converted fishing boats. There's only one boat up there that's a dedicated dive boat. And if you've watched my Scapa review, you'll know what I think of that, which is not particularly highly. So a lot of them are like this. And there was a lot of discussion on whether, you know, the boat itself was at fault, you know, basically not really suitable. And there was talk about, you know, whether the deck was wrong, because a lot of the fishing boats have sloped decks. So this one sloped from fore to aft at about 7 degrees, and then it sloped off to the edges at 2 degrees, and there was lots of talk about, you know, did that contribute to the fall? Was the lack of railings a contribution to the fall as well? Now, it was pretty much accepted that when this guy fell over, he wasn't holding a railing. It was concluded that there was a railing he could have been holding on to, I think the investigation report said, oh, we think there should be more things. But to be honest with you, if you talk to any safety person about everything, they always say there should be more cotton wool around you. The judge in the case concluded that it wasn't due to the fact that there wasn't the additional railing that's been put in. So at the time there was one rail, but now the skipper's put more rails in. But at the time there was only one, but the judge said, I don't think it was to do with that, because he could have had hold of this anyway, and he didn't. So if he didn't have hold of it, then why would he have had hold of another one if you put it there? You know, and there was different angles, and whether it should be vertical or horizontal or diagonal and all this kind of stuff. But in the end, the judge just dismissed that and said, no, it's not that, and no, it's not a defect of the boat. So the boat is not at fault. So then it boiled down to, well, was it the skipper's fault? Well, the skipper hadn't done any kind of formal risk assessment, which again, the judge sort of went, yeah, because the skipper said, well, you know, I have done a risk assessment, it's just not been formal, but, you know, we have looked at this and gone, okay, we can make this as safe as possible, blah, blah, blah. So the judge kind of went down the middle and said, well, I do accept that you've done some kind of risk assessment, even though it's not formal, even though it's not a risk assessment in the normal kind of sense, and it's not been labelled that, and maybe you've not even thought about it. Like, I accept that you have looked at this and done some form of active risk assessment, so to speak, but it's been insufficient. And he's basically boiled down to and found the skipper at fault for, okay, and this is the bit that's really interesting for us as divers, for letting him walk in his fins from where he's got off on the kitting up bench to the gate. Now, when I'm saying walk, I'm not on about, like, you know, 200 meters or something. It's accepted in the evidence that the guy only walked 3 steps, okay, before he fell over. So what the judge has said is 3 steps in this situation and on this boat was too much, and the skipper should have had systems in place to minimize that to as little as possible. Now, what that means is, and again, if you read the case, again, link down below, you'll see that obviously as part of the case, you know, they've had expert witnesses come in, and sort of other boat charter skippers have gone, well, we don't know how that would work. You know, how would that work? You know, you can't put things in place for that, because, you know, the skipper's got to be there, you know, pulling you past the shot line as you get in. So we're not sure how that works. And the judge basically said, well, I just don't believe any of that. You know, there must be something you can do. So it's really, really interesting, because every dive boat I've been on, perhaps apart from the club rib where you basically get kitted up and then just literally falling because there's nowhere to walk, I have absolutely definitely walked 1, 2 or 3 steps to get to the dive lift, even when I've been the closest person there. I am 100% and absolutely teach a fins on first when get kitted up. It's the first thing I put on, my dry suit, then fins, then sit back and get all my gear on, okay? But the simple reason is I'm fat, I don't bend at the best of times very well, but, you know, when I've certainly got, you know, my twins on, a stage on, you know, my big Kent tooling reel on and all the rest of the guff, there is no way on God's green earth I'm going to stand there doing like a flamingo with one leg balancing and all that stuff to try and pull fins on. That, to me, that's more dangerous. So it's really, really interesting, because this is going to reverberate through the industry. And, you know, we're not talking about small change here, £290,000. Now, bearing in mind, that's just the award for damages and pain and suffering. That does not include costs. So the solicitor's costs, I can promise you, because I used to work in the legal profession and I used to be a civil litigator, if you didn't know, but I can promise you the costs will be at least 3 times as much as that for the solicitor's fees across both sides. So the insurance companies will be paying attention to this, because this is going to hurt them in the pocket. And they will be looking at other dive operators and saying, right, what processes have you got in place to make sure this doesn't happen on your boat? And they're going to turn around and say, well, I don't know, because I don't know what the answer is, because taking 2 or 3 steps in fins is dangerous. You know, we've all done it, guys. We've all tripped over our fins when we've been walking forward, whether that's at Cape and Rain, it's bloody dug into the gravel or this, that and the other. Thankfully not with consequences as bad as this, but we've all done it. We all know that there is a genuine risk. Paddy and BSAC are quoted in the judgment as saying that, you know, so there are governing bodies, okay, are saying that you shouldn't be walking around in your fins should go on at the last minute. Can you do that with technical diving? So what are skippers going to have to do now? So yeah, I'm really worried about the repercussions of this in the industry. Are skippers now going to make you sign a little waiver every time you get on that says, you know, you need to put, I'm telling you, you need to put your fins on last. And if you do anything else, then that's at your risk, okay? Are they going to have to have a deckhand on that literally puts your fins on for you while you're doing some flamingo holding onto the thing, you know, trying to make sure you stay up? That doesn't seem particularly safe. Putting them on in the water? Pff, absolutely not. You can just imagine it. 10 divers jump in, 5 of them have dropped a fin on the way in. You're never going to get back to the boat with no fins. You're never going to make that shot line that's running away from you in the current. So that doesn't seem a practical solution either. So it's really interesting, and I'm just not sure what the answer is. Am I doing it wrong by putting my fins on first? What do you guys do? Are you a fins first or a not fins first? What happens abroad? I've not dove a lot off boats abroad. Is it different? I know when I've dived off Malta, a lot of shore diving, that's easy to get your fins on in the water because, you know, you're not carrying half the stuff, to be honest with you. It's basically as light as you can get because you've been traveling. But with technical diving, I don't really think that's an option. So yeah, just sound off down below, guys. I'm really curious to see what you think about this because I'm not sure there's a right and wrong answer. So anyway, guys, give me a like. Please think about subscribing and hit that little notification bell. It does help me out massively. But yeah, the next video we'll get onto something slightly happier, or maybe not. We'll see. But it won't be quite this bad. Bit of UK diving news there I thought you'd be interested in, guys. Check out the links down below for some news articles and, like I say, a link to the court judgment. And yeah, let me know what you think down below. Alright then, guys, anyway, I'm going to pick my cylinders up and go and mow the lawns or something exciting at home. So you enjoy yourself, and I will see you on the next one.